Wow, an auto-scroller in a Sonic game? That's a terrible idea. Good thing it was never attempted again. Whoa. No. No. We all know the story by now. Sonic the Hedgehog came out on the Genesis, Sega's flagship 16-bit console, to critical acclaim and massive success, paving the way for him to become an icon so massive multiple idiots like me dedicate their lives to discussing him. But you see, the Genesis wasn't Sega's only console, for before the 16-bit generation, we had 8-bit consoles, and Sega's 8-bit console was the Master System, which did not see anywhere near as close as popularity as the Genesis. But in some vain attempt, those poor saps at Sega decided to publish remakes and new Sonic games for their previous system, which, while admirable, did not see the same widespread attention as their main console outings. But, hidden within decent obscurity, is there something in these games we missed, and could they possibly outshine the Genesis games? I'm your local idiot hipster, and let's see how well Sega did without blast processing. Released on the same day as the Genesis version, 8-bit Sonic won its most accurate game to a 16-bit counterpart, having the most shared levels and mechanics. Something you should get used to when starting off though is that the controls feel pretty different. Everything is mechanically here, jumping and rolling are the same as they always are, but the physics feel wildly off in comparison. The smooth momentum physics from the Genesis games where rolling down hills and running through loops never cease to be satisfying is now neutered. Going fast down hills is more so a scripted sequence, where you just hold down the D-pad to get a bizarre boost in speed. I get it's on significantly inferior hardware, but it just doesn't feel natural in comparison to the original. Fortunately or unfortunately though, you're not going to be seeing any cool tricks from the Genesis version, as this game is mainly a traditional platformer with some Sonic elements. You're most likely going to be taking things slower, with more gimmicks being based on precise movement and avoiding hazards. The best comparison to make is Mario games on the NES, which for a mascot designed to be his direct counterpart is pretty weird. Now let's get into the levels, and while most of them are shared between versions, we have some new ones in the mix. We start out in everyone's favorite stage, Green Hill, and it's mostly the same way it is in the 16-bit version. The hills, the slopes, the bountiful rings. I would say the loops, but I don't think any exist here or in the game in general. Act 2 introduces a bit of water with a rolling log segment, but it's pretty optional and you won't be drowning here. The only thing to note is that you'll find the emeralds in this stage. Yeah, weirdly enough, you don't collect emeralds by going to the special stages, which they are in the game, but you only get extra lives. Weirdly, they're right out in the open for anyone to collect, which makes me question why Eggman has any trouble finding them. Speaking of Eggman, we get to the boss, which is literally just the Eggmobile. You just sit and wait until it comes down and hit it. It's mind-numbingly easy. Next, we have two new stages, Bridge and Jungle Zone. While Bridge Zone looks nearly identical to Green Hill, Jungle Zone actually looks really good for an 8-bit game, with both levels having pretty good music, Bridge especially. I lumped both in together because they're similar in being incredibly focused on platforming, and most of the time it's to its own detriment. Bridge Zone focuses on going a lot of bridges, shocker, that fall down when you run past them. And while the first act is fine enough, the second act is a boring ass auto-scroll that makes me want to jump off a bridge. Jungle Zone is better, but it still suffers. While the first act is more non-linear and speedy, Act 2 is a giant climb to the top where falling even once means immediate death. Man, this game makes as much great decisions as I do. And speaking of great decisions, they decided to add Labyrinth and Scrap Brain to this version. Yeah, two of the worst levels in the original game. Spring Yard and Starlight, no, but they just had to add the water level. Labyrinth Zone actually surprised me though, because somehow, someway, they made it worse than the original. It's slower, it's more boring, 90% of the level is underwater, and the boss is actual ass, because you're expected to fight it underwater with no rings. Yeah, I should discuss the bosses before anything else, and while all of them are very boring and don't extend beyond wait to hit it, there's a big bone I had to pick with them in general, because you're going to be fighting all of them without any rings. Boss acts in Sonic 1 and 2 SMS have no rings whatsoever, so if you get hit once you're dead and have to do the entire boss act again, and that gets really frustrating in the later part of these games. Scrap Brain is fine, same thing as its counterpart. The only thing I've noticed is that there's no traditional boss, and instead you're stuck in a maze and have to escape, and once you've escaped you get a cinematic transition to the last level, Skybase Zone. Skybase is a pretty decent finale. The level looks very climactic with the dark sky, the thunder, and the lightning that give this level an air of danger and fear, which the music definitely doesn't add to. This sounds like the theme for the second level. While the first act is pretty good, you just need to pay attention to the bottomless pits and the lightning, you can literally skip the second act in its entirety by taking the shortcut that also gives you the final emerald. You then beat the somewhat difficult final boss, and the game ends with a pretty neat credit sequence of Sonic singing. Overall, Sonic 1 8-bit is a decent game, but a mess Sonic game. Is it better than 16-bit? I think it's more consistent, but Genesis Green Hill and Starlight easily solo everything 8-bit does. Overall, a fine start. Sonic 2 8-bit is easily the most infamous 8-bit game, mainly known from it killing Tails. It's also known for being really difficult, which especially after hearing the horror stories from people who played it really scared me. So I sat down, played the game with bated breath, and all I gotta say, it's slightly harder than the first game. Like, there was never anything more than it slightly being annoying, but I'll get to it when we get to the game itself. Let's quickly run down how this game is different from the first and its main counterpart. Sonic 2 8-bit basically has nothing to do with the Genesis version of Sonic 2, not only having a completely different roster of levels, but a completely different story. Now the plot is that Tails is kidnapped by Eggman, so you need to go in to collect the Chaos Emeralds before Eggman either keeps them forever or just kills the fox. Yeesh. In terms of controls, Sonic 2 is the exact same as Sonic 1 8-bit. Same physics, same moves, and general feel. Even the spin dash introduced in the Genesis version of Sonic 2 is nowhere to be found in its remake, which is incredibly annoying. The game also has emeralds found within the levels like the first 8-bit game, but only the second act has them, which makes finding them a lot easier. I don't want to go through all the levels because I'd just be here forever, so I'll go through the top 5 most memorable levels in the game. Number 1. Underground Zone. This is the first level of the game, and it makes a big first impression by not feeling like the first level of the game. Yeah, a Sonic game not having a Green Hill type level at its start feels so strange to me. Aside from that, I like the minecart gimmick, and I thought the lava was pretty cool. Number 2. Aqua Lake Zone. While being a water level arguably worse than Labyrinth, it saves itself by having phenomenal aesthetics and music. This might be my favorite water biome in the entire series. Outside of that, I like the whole skipping over water gimmick, and it's a water level. I don't care for it much when it comes to level design, and the Rising Bubble section in Act 2 is kinda lame. I'm glad it came back in Mania though. Number 3. Green Hills. I can't believe they put a movie location in the games! Anyway, the only notable thing about this level is that the OST for this stage is You Can Do Anything from Sonic CD, which is really neat. Number 4. Scrambled Egg Zone. The most infamous level. The level that drove Garrulous64 to his deepest nightmares, and it's... Like, I don't know what's so hard about this. I don't know if it's luck, but the tubes were kinda easy to navigate, and I beat this level with no issue. Also, the boss here is Silver Sonic, which also comes back in Mania, and is also neat. Number 5. Crystal Egg. If you collected all the emeralds, you enter the secret final level, which is not that notable. I like how everything is glass, but outside that, the level design isn't that special. You beat Eggman, get Tails, and the game ends with you both dying. Cool. Sonic 2 8-bit is pretty much the same game as the first, with slightly better and more challenging level design while getting rid of the auto-scrolls from the first game. So in short, it's better than Sonic 1 but still not great, and they kill Tails! Now, Sonic Chaos is a game I have a weird relationship with because in truth, I love it a lot. Not because it's an especially good game, but because it feels like the perfect cozy Sonic game. It's the ultimate vanilla Sonic experience. No big shakeups, but at the same time it doesn't feel like it's taking away from what Sonic was at the time. It's just simple Sonic and Tails fun against Eggman who's trying to create nuclear weapons? What? I actually have really fond memories playing this game on the last days of my school between exam periods, so I might be biased. Before we get into the levels, let's introduce the numerous changes that Chaos brought to the pixelated table. First, the physics feel a lot better than the previous games. Now, it's not Genesis levels of physics, but when you're running or rolling down hills, you'll notice the difference. Speed was also improved with the added spin dash finally in an 8-bit game, which makes general progression so much better. The peel-out is also here, but seeing as I don't care for that move in CD, I don't care for it here as well. Also added to the game is Tails, who can do the exact same things as Sonic, except now he can fly. The first in any Sonic game ever, which is really interesting to realize. The flying feels really finicky though. It works the same way as in later entries, but the way it controls feels really off. The last new additions are the new power-ups and special stages. There are 2 brand new power-ups with the Pogo and Rocket Shoes, meaning Sonic had Rocket Shoes before Shadow, which makes the latter even more of a faker. The rocket shoes blast you forward in the air for a short amount of time, while you control the direction and height you want to have. The pogo shoes are much simpler, with them springing you up into the sky, where jumping or taking damage removes them. I'd say both are pretty fun and useful, especially when collecting rings. And you will want to collect rings, as you need 100 of them to get into the special stages, which, to be fair, isn't hard as they're literally everywhere. Collecting 100 immediately brings you to the special stages, which is odd, seeing as every other game either requires you to beat the level or find a doohickey to send you there. The emeralds, unlike Sonic 2 8-bit, don't give you any secret level or boss. The only change is seeing an emerald graphic on the credits. There are 5 unique special stages, so let's run it down with a Watch Mojo top 5. Number 5, Special Stage 1. This level is insanely easy. Literally hold forward until you get to the end and reach the emerald. There is no challenge whatsoever. Number 4, Special Stage 5. The second tube stage, but this time with a layout so annoyingly frustrating that I had to actually use a guide to beat it. And they added a troll spring at the end just to piss you off even more. Number 3, Special Stage 3. The first tube stage, but this time it's not difficult or confusing, so it's alright I guess. Number 2, Special Stage 2. Crazy how this is in the previous share rankings with their in-game placement, but anyway, this requires you to effectively use the pogo springs to get to the top of the level and get the emerald. It's actually quite fun using the springs to platform, though I will say sometimes when I died, it wasn't really feeling like my fault. Number 1, Special Stage 4. This is a fast-paced race to the end stage filled with a bunch of challenges and a crazy time limit. I actually lost multiple times, but finally getting that emerald felt super satisfying. I really wish more special stages were just harder levels that put your moveset to the test. One thing that's odd is how there's only 5 special stages and not 6, as the final emerald is held by Eggman. It weirded me out how we're just one short of how it is in the Genesis games, as I'd really like one more final challenge. And speaking of short, wow, I'm good with segues. The levels in this game are painfully short, like a decent player could beat them in a minute. Wow, where have I heard that one before? And the worst part is once you get to an emerald, you immediately go to the next level instead of finishing it. This kinda sucks because all the levels in this game are actually pretty good in terms of level design. I mean, the level design isn't too out of the ordinary when it comes to Sonic games. I mean, this is not gonna give 3 Knuckles a run for its money. But in terms of level design, while being easy, it's actually pretty solid, and I'm kinda disappointed that you basically don't have to interact with it most throughout the game. And speaking of easy, again, king of segues, the bosses in this game are pathetically easy, to where you can literally beat them in 10 seconds if you have the bare minimum of skill. This really goes for all bosses, except for the final one, where it's surprisingly difficult. You have to juggle yourself above Eggman's tin can contraption, while dodging a laser he shoots that ricochets across the arena, and to make things worse, he comes in for a final surprise attack that you can't see if you don't have any practice, and after you beat him, the game is done. Is this game anything special? I don't really think so, but on the other hand, this is not only better than the other 2 games we covered, but it's also just a fun game. Sonic Chaos is a fun game. That's really all I can say. But now we can get to its sequel, and the most iconic 8-bit game of the bunch. Sonic Triple Trouble is easily the 8-bit game you've heard most about, possibly due to the 16-bit remake by Noah Copeland that came out a couple years ago, and believe me, I have a lot of things to say about that game I'll cover in a fan games video down the line. But this game introduced a lot of stuff to the Big Crush lineup, like Knuckles returning as an antagonist, and new character Fang the Sniper, or Knack the Weasel if you're weird to the series. But other than that, I think what separates this game from the rest of its brethren is how solid and ambitious feels. It feels like it wants to do more than what the hardware could provide. Let's get into the gameplay first. Sonic and Tails return as playable characters and all their movesets from Chaos come back, but Sonic Super Peel-Out gets a buff as it's temporarily invincible when you charge it. That's neat, I guess. Another move you have is the ability to go into a ball form off a spring, and it is genius. I'm actually surprised none of the other 2D Sonic side-scrollers give that idea a try, but overall the movesets of both characters feel solid and complete. Now for the levels. They're the biggest jump in quality yet, as they genuinely feel like Genesis levels but made smaller. The level design in this game feels wide open yet still intricate. There's a bunch of speed while still having fun platforming. The gimmicks feel so much less intrusive and much more creative. Genuinely, this game's levels are amazing. The added exploration here also makes finding the special stages much more fun. As in this game, the special stages are unlocked by getting 50 rings and hitting an emerald monitor hidden in the level, which is actually an interesting blend of ideas from the Genesis games, of getting and preserving your rings while still exploring the levels. The special stages work the same way as in Chaos, even down to them being completely pointless in the grand scheme of things, being separated into the multiple challenge levels and 2 plane flying levels. The plane levels just kinda suck, as the depth of view in these games are horrible when they try to simulate 3D, so it ends up being too hard to collect rings. I'm just glad they didn't make these all the special stages though. The special stage levels though are actually pretty decent. While being difficult on a first try with finding out where to go and just general level design being hard, they feel rewarding when you beat them. And in the end you have a small Fang boss fight, which are pretty easy but it's still nice to have. The bosses in this game though are the most solid they've been in any game so far. They feel higher scale and some, like the second boss where you run on the train, feel really cinematic. The difficulty curve to note is such an improvement, as the bosses actually feel like they progress in challenges as you progress through the game, instead of them all being easy or the final boss just being annoying to deal with. In the end, you get to the Atomic Destroyer, defeat Eggman in a pretty hard 3-phase boss, and send him falling down, shake hands with Knuckles, and then the game ends. Overall, while still being flawed, this is the closest game to the quality of the classics so far. If it wasn't limited to the Game Gear, it could have been one of the best 2D Sonic games of all time. God! I can't wait to see how they continue to improve from here. You gotta be fucking kidding me. Hey kids, do you like having fun with Sonic games? Well, do you wish you could stop doing that? Well, do I have the game for you. Introducing Sonic Sonic Blast. Experience graphics so comically terrible Russian bootlegs with premium comparison. Controls and physics so ass the mere act of jumping from platform to platform is nearly impossible. Levels that are designed to make you get angry and have gimmicks so terrible they want to make you break your Game Gear over your knee. Bosses that are so annoying and free of any redeemable qualities. Except for the cool Sun Wukong boss, that was pretty neat. And special stages that take the annoying plane levels from Triple Trouble, but make them worse, more annoying, and give you the worst true final boss in all of Sonic history. This game is one of the worst experiences I've ever gone through in any game I've ever played, and that's saying a lot considering I've played Sonic Heroes. In fact, talking about this game for long just makes me feel tired. I'm done. And that's all the 8-bit Sonic platformers that I've ever released. It's not a perfect track record, especially with you on the list, but I think for what was here, it's insanely solid with a lot of fun and memorable Sonic platforming experiences. Sonic, Chaos, and Triple Trouble in specifics deserve to be checked out, as I actually think they hold a candle to the Genesis games. But that's all for me. Stay pixelated and hipster out.